Well, good morning again, and it is 9:02, and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Building and Operating Committee of Thursday, January 25th, 2024. But before we begin, please note the meeting is being recorded. Welcome to everyone joining us here in person, as well as those listening in on the phone to the first meeting of 2024. If you would like to provide public comment at today's meeting and you have not already done so, please let Thomas in the back of the room or Justine on the call-in line know what items you would like to speak on today. Madam Secretary, please begin by calling the roll.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm going to start with Director Conroy, who's absent, Director Giudice.
Here.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Parr.
Present.
Director Rabbit is absent. Director Theriault is absent. Vice Chair Rodoni.
Present.
Chair Garbarino.
Here.
And President Cochran.
Here.
You're not a committee of the whole. We're only at 7, but Director Hill is also here, so I'll keep track of that in case we have more members join. Staff, we have a little change in staff. Dennis is not here.
That was profound.
But I just point out the obvious. Get that off the table. So Kelly Hopper is filling in as acting general manager today. We have Joe Wire here. We have Ava Bauer-Furbish, but I wanted to highlight that we have Les Belton here from the bus division joining us. This is his first meeting joining us here.
Great.
You guys can
Welcome.
meet Les later in between the meetings, but Mike Hoffman's here as well and Dave Rivera as well.
Great. Dave, as I recall, provided us or helped to that wonderful lunch at the holiday.
Yes.
He was like the Walmart greeter. He was great right there. That was such a nice lunch. Okay, thank you. Please follow along by referring to page numbers located on the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. We will begin with agenda item number 3, which is to approve actions relative to professional services agreement number 2014 FT13, Wetland Restoration Design and Permitting Support Services Project with WRA Incorporated. The staff report begins on page 3, and we're lucky enough to have Ava Bauer-Furbish here to present the report. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino, members of the committee. The agenda number 3 staff report presents staff recommendation to eliminate the use of any herbicides during removal of invasive weed vegetation at the district's parcel in Corte Madera. The district retained WRA under the 6th Amendment of PSA number 2014 FT13 to perform the removal of invasive grasses, including pampas grass. And this work is done on about 12 acres of the parcel. WRA scope of work under the 6th Amendment involves pulling root balls of the pampas grass from the ground to kill the roots by exposing them to sun. Despite the sun exposure, the large size of those root balls may allow the plant to sprout under certain conditions. So the original WRA scope of work contemplated the use of herbicides for removal of larger tree sprouts. As directed by the committee, staff informed WRA that the use of herbicides will not be allowed, and instead WRA should use manual and mechanical methods to accomplish this work. At the request of staff, WRA provided a cost proposal for this change scope of work in the amount of $167,000. Staff reviewed the previous and the revised work scope and determined that the proposed cost increase is reasonable. And I have to underline here, this is just, we speculate what may happen. If we luck, not too much will happen, but considering the current weather condition, the rain and so on, we expect that unfortunately, this is a good condition for pampas grass to sprout. But anyway, If large re-sprouting that requires manual and mechanical removal occurs, WRA will be compensated for actual time expended and expenses incurred plus a fixed fee up to the amount of $167,000 under the first addendum to the PSA 6 amendment, if execution of this first addendum is authorized by the Board of Directors at the recommendation of this committee. Staff recommends that the committee recommends to the board to authorize 16,700 contingency, which is 10% of the first addendum amount for this addendum to provide budget for any additional scope that may be required while the work is progressing. The consultant is a certified SBE entity, and therefore there is 100% SBE participation in this first addendum. The proposed $167,000 cost of the first addendum to the sixth amendment to the PSA with the WRA and the 16,700 contingency for a total amount of $183,700 is proposed to be financed from the district reserves. So with this, I'll be happy to answer any question the committee may have for me.
Great, yes, Bert.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring us onto the bottom of page 4. And it starts treatment of compost grass removal areas. And go down to the third line down, where it says the follow-up treatment will include the manual removal of small plants and herbicide applications for larger tree sprouts within the management area. So are we going to use some herbicides or not?
I am afraid that the report, the engineering prepared, and what you have in front of you is different. This is how my page 4 looks like.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
looks quite different.
Something happened.
Yeah.
And
Wait, no, wait, hang on. It's page 4 of the packet. So it's, so if you're looking, it's page 2 of the staff report.
Okay.
Yes.
So page 4 of the packet, this is the listing of the original scope of work.
Right.
And under the original scope of work, I think you're looking at bullet 4 of the original scope of work that lists the use of herbicides. Then you go on page 5, and page 5 lists 4 bullets of the revised scope of work, which is like the middle of this page. And you see there, eliminate the scope associated with the use and application of any herbicides in each of the management areas. And it goes on saying that removal will be accomplished by manual and mechanical methods. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So we're all clear then, and I didn't thank you, Ava, as well for your report. We're all clear then on the fact that there will not be use of herbicides, but manual efforts. Okay, great. Anyone? Yes, Jim.
Yeah. So, while taking a possible 84,000 from reserves is an insignificant amount, I think in this case, the eliminating the possibility of using herbicides is a significant step and on the part of the district, and may prove helpful in other areas for us and possibly other agencies in banning its use completely. And thank you for pursuing the change on the board.
Good deal. Yes.
Yeah, I also applaud not using herbicides as well, but I just am curious because I think the last time we discussed this, the use of herbicides was a last resort that they were going to do. So I'm curious about the increase of $167,000 on the front side of this when they haven't even established whether or not they were gonna, in other words, if we had approved the last agreement, there would be no increase and the board would have a chance to have reviewed that. We understood from Dennis, when we got to that final step, I believe that's what we discussed. So I'm just curious why the 167 right out of the chute. I mean, I'm fine with it, but it seems like this was a good opportunity just to kind of make a little bit of money. I talked about that.
Well, my guess is that it requires more labor than their initial analysis, because it's now manual way to break these up, as opposed to the implementation of herbicides.
Yeah,
Yes.
if I may add, I think the committee wanted to have this assurance in the form of this addendum,
Right.
just in case there is some changes along the line and somebody may forget that we agreed there will be no use of herbicide. That's why you see this for your approval. Once again, I want to say, the reason for the cost, if there is a need and there is this large risk route, they have to bring mechanical equipment. I mean, there is a much more elaborate work involved, and it will take definitely more staff and effort to accomplish it than just send a person to Spain. So this is, but once again, this only, we'll have to pay for this work if it's needed, if
Okay.
it's necessary.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And Sabrina, did you put your hand?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. I suppose I have a comment. I did notice in the report, I think if I'm not incorrect, there was some scope of work that was to be done on a 2-year basis, which now it's going to be done on a 1-year basis. So there's increased work,
I
my-
may explain, yeah.
yes.
So I think what we told the consultant, we want to attack, should risk routing occur. We don't want to wait 2 years, because like any vegetation, you give the vegetation that grows. We want to attack this issue upfront, because maybe then we don't have to deal with large risk routes.
So there was a note in the report, additionally, about the use of excavators and the possible disturbance of native species. Will there be increased use of excavators with that annual treatment of the pampas grass? And are we assured that the appropriate biological monitoring will take place too?
Right, the part of the scope of work that it's listed in the report, I think, on page 5 of your packet, at the top, the second bullet talks about the site monitoring and maintenance. And no, there is no need for excavation, because the only excavation that happens is to pull those large root balls from the ground and put them on the top of the ground, so they are exposed to sun. So if resprouting occurs, this all be a surface work, but it will take a mechanical equipment to accomplish it if it's a big problem.
I realize that it's a very difficult situation, but
Right.
it's hard to manage, and
Right,
we're
and
doing our best
the
to.
work is, it's limited to specific time of the year. And it's always done under strict observation and monitoring, so to make sure that, it doesn't harm the animals and other vegetation, that it's beneficial.
Thank you very much for all your work to try to get to the best case scenario for this. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other comments, directors? That concludes our discussion on item number 3, but before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no public commenters in the room. Justine, do you have any public commenters on the line?
We did not have any public comment by the start of the meeting. And I do not believe anybody knows.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Emma. May I have a motion on item number 3 to
I'll move
approve?
I agree.
Second.
Looks like we've got a second as well. And just for the record, that is to Professional Services Agreement PSA number 2014 FT13 with WRA Incorporated. Instead of a roll call vote, I'm going to ask those in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show there is no opposition and the motion passes. We will continue now on to item number 4, which is a presentation relative to the Port Security Grant Program, Bay Ferry 6. A copy of the PowerPoint presentation begins on page 9, and Mike Hoffman is here to make this presentation. Thank you in advance. Mike, go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino. Good morning, members of the committee.
Morning.
So in the spring of 2022, the district applied for and was awarded a FEMA Port Security Grant. This is the 6th such grant that the district has been awarded. However, I should note that the deliverables for the 5th grant were canceled due to the COVID pandemic. This 6th iteration we refer to simply as the Bay Ferry 6 project. The U.S. ferry system is a relatively soft target and one of the few remaining transportation sectors that has not been hardened against the mass casualty attack. The Port Security Grant funded specific deliverables to harden the SF Bay Ferry system against a mass casualty attack and active threat. The grant has 5 deliverables. Improvements to infrastructure, development of a document we are referencing to as the Active Threat Planning Toolkit that provides guidance on prevention, response, and recovery for an active threat or mass casualty. Public awareness and training on the developed planning toolkit. The procurement of specialized medical equipment for an active threat or mass casualty event. And the pinnacle of this project, which was a 4-day full-scale exercise, of which we will share immediately following the presentation. So we'll get to the presentation. I look forward to sharing that video with you. Naturally, the first step towards addressing an active threat is prevention. The grant has funded improvements to the security fence at the district's San Francisco Ferry Terminal. This engineering project is ongoing and pending permit clearance from the Port of San Francisco with construction slated for this calendar year. The security enhancements work in conjunction with the camera systems, roaming patrols, and signage to create an overarching deterrent system. Preparedness and passenger personal safety are addressed in the Active Threat Planning Toolkit document. Preparedness and passenger personal safety addressed throughout the development of this Active Threat Planning Toolkit. The grant funded the procurement of tourniquets, referred to here as stop-to-bleed kits, to be outfitted in terminals and onboard vessels, and training of vessel operators and first responders on the contents of the Active Threat Planning Toolkit, as well as usage of how to use these stop-to-bleed kits. Because of the complexity of issues involved with an active threat or mass casualty and the solutions required, a whole key approach was required to effectively counter a threat or respond to a mass casualty on board a ferry vessel or inside of a ferry terminal. Lastly, and most definitely the pinnacle, like I said, this entire project was that regional active threat full-scale exercise that was over 4 days and included 14 different scenarios. So I'll move on now to diving into the Active Threat Planning Toolkit. The district coordinated with the United States Coast Guard Sector San Francisco, regional law enforcement, and first responders to form a active threat work group to ensure unity effort across all agencies and disciplines. Through coordination with these stakeholders, the district developed an Active Threat Planning Toolkit, which is a document that contains information on existing maritime active threats, how they may be prevented, guidance on what to do if an active threat incident were to occur, and how to recover afterwards. The toolkit also includes addendums to update existing terminal and vessel security plans, first responder response plans, and maritime security checklist. Following the development of the Active Threat Planning Toolkit, the project team held training evolutions and public awareness campaigns. Multiple training sessions were held with regional, public, and private operators, law enforcement, and first responders, which I'll address in the later slides. The project team also presented to the California Boating Safety Officers Association at the Tiburon Yacht Club. District vessels and partner public and private operators have received these kits through the grant program. The grant funded 4 training locations for both public and private operators, with one of these locations being held at the district's Larkspur Ferry Terminal, one at the district's San Francisco Ferry Terminal, one session at WEA's SF Central Bay Terminal in Alameda, and a training day in Tiburon on board the privately owned Angel Island Ferry. The courses were designed to train employees and crews on how to prevent, respond, and recover from an active threat or shooter incident in a ferry terminal, dock ferry, or an underway ferry. The current guidance from the Department of Homeland Security for an active threat is Run, Hide, Fight initiative. Vessel crews and staff were given high-level training on the Run, Hide, Fight initiative, as well as how to apply or use and stop complete tourniquets that were purchased as part of this grant program. Lastly, the crews learned how to prepare for boarding by maritime law enforcement responding to an active threat. Further, the course trained staff. Having a hard time advancing my slide, excuse me.
It's okay. None of the rest of us ever have trouble with technology.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
Thank you. So we're on slide 8. So further, the course trained staff on active threats under different operating scenarios, including being underway, docked, or having a threat in the terminal rather than on board the vessel. Participants were coached on situational awareness and how to identify signs of potential threat. As a last resort, back to the Run, Hide, Fight initiative, participants were given guidance on how to distract and disarm an assailant during an active threat. It is also imperative that vessel crews are aware of how to interact with responding law enforcement. So law enforcement boarding a vessel, or entering a terminal, they're under extreme pressure to identify a threat versus a non-threat. So crews and terminal staff are given, very basic training on how to present themselves, hands up, so they're easily identified by law enforcement as they're not a threat. To summarize the trainings, the project team organized 6 4-hour training sessions with 3 at Golden Gate Ferry, 2 at WETA's Central Bay location, and 1 at Angel Island Ferry in Tiburon. The training was given to over 130 participants across both private and public operators, including Golden Gate Ferry, Blue and Gold Fleet, WETA, City Cruises, Red and White Fleet, and Angel Island Ferry. There's also additional lead-up trainings that covered first responders and law enforcement. Most of these training evolutions were in lead-up and in preparation for the 4-day live exercise in which these first responders and law enforcement reacted to multiple scenarios, including active threat, mass casualty, and a radiological nuclear threat. Response on board a vessel underway or pier site is unique in nature, requires a different approach from that of an office building or any building structure. The project team worked in conjunction with the San Francisco Fire Department to host a training with 21 participants in August. And additionally, the project team worked and coordinated with the United States Coast Guard to provide training to law enforcement on a nuclear or radiological threat. This training reached 28 regional first responders from San Francisco, Marin County, and Solano counties. In conjunction with the training, the project team coordinated and hosted a tabletop exercise with over 100 participants. The intent of the tabletop was mostly informational in nature to inform the first responders and law enforcement about the vulnerability of ferry vessels and terminals. But it also included a brief on a live exercise that we held in September and opened the floor for discussions, which assisted in interagency communication in advance of the live exercise. Before we get to the live exercise, I'll just real briefly talk about the medical equipment that was purchased as part of this grant deliverable. So it's essentially a tourniquet. We call it a cough and bleed kit. All of the members who went through our training trained on how to use this and apply it. Tourniquet and how to pack wounds is really what this kit includes, the materials to do such. Now for the regional full-scale exercise. By and large, like I said, this was the pivotal of the project. It was held from September 18th to September 21st, and during the 4-day evolution, we saw over 600 participants from over 50 agencies engaged in 14 different time scenarios that required them to demonstrate their ability to support the implementation of the United States Coast Guard Sector San Francisco's emergency response plan. We had participation from local, state, and federal first responders. The exercises provided a valuable opportunity for agencies to practice operational or across jurisdictional lines and also coordinate a response to a complex set of scenarios. Lastly, this slide summarizes the 4 days. The first day was a radiological or nuclear threat scenario, and that was held at Pier 1 at Treasure Island. Day 2 and day 3 were the larger days, or where we saw the most participation. That was an active threat on a dock commuter ferry dockside for day 2 in China Basin at Oracle Park. Day 3 was a similar scenario on a ferry that's underway, and in conjunction with that, we had an interim fire. So just to make matters a little more hectic, we included an interim fire along with an inactive shooter. And the 4th day was an IED detonation on board a ferry vessel that resulted in a mass casualty event, and it focused a lot more on the first responders and the evacuation of the vessel involved. So we saw a lot of different assets on the water, from fireboats to U.S. Coast Guard vessels. So we had assets from state, local, and federal agencies that took part in the evacuation of the actors who volunteered and participated in this exercise. District has hosted 4 other Bay Ferry exercises, with Bay Ferry 5 being canceled due to COVID. The scale of the previous exercises were much smaller in nature and covered only a single day. This exercise, held over 4 days, provided additional value to the region that it engaged local, state, and federal first responders in live exercises in advance of the Asia Pacific Economic Summit held in November. While preparation for APEC was not in the grant deliverable, nor was it in the grant language, there was an additional benefits to the region in APEC, so I want to highlight that. Following the live exercise, we were a series of debriefs and the development of an improvement plan identifying specific corrective actions. Lastly, I got a timeline here that just kind of highlights the project. High level, but I want to note, not included on this timeline is the project really did start in spring of 2022 with an application from the district's capital and grants program, or department, for the funding to carry out this project. So following the grant award, the district enlisted a contractor to assist with the training and exercises that we held in February of last year. We enlisted the contractor in February. We held the training in July and August of last year. The tabletop was also held in August. The main 4-day exercise was in September, and filing of the active threat plan kit took place at the end of last year. Before concluding, I'd like to acknowledge the ferry operations team for its effort in carrying out this project. I'd also like to recognize the Capital and Grants Department for their grassroots efforts in securing the necessary for this event, and I'd like to thank all the participating federal, state, and regional partners and agencies that participated in this, as well as the private and public ferry vessels that participated in this event. So with that, I'll pause for any questions before we have a presentation. It's about this long that kind of gives you a high-level view of what this looks like.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike, for that presentation. And I see a hand from Jim.
Yeah. Is this training conducted in other areas, or is it unique to us?
So we do experience, first responders calling ferry and asking to use one of our vessels for training. However, this is unique in that we have a whole array of multi-agency first responders and operators that are engaged in a single exercise where they can actually work across jurisdictional lines. I think it's unique in that nature.
Yeah. So we kind of built this from around that full training.
Absolutely. And then it's nice the way it snowballed. Now we threw out a bunch of invitations. Started off small and it exponentially grew. We saw people at the very last minute, the morning of the exercise, saying, "We want to come down there and participate."
That's great.
Yeah.
Was there any event that precipitated this, or was it just it's time we do something like this?
So, like I mentioned, we've done a few of these before. This was really the 5th one, with Bay Ferry 5 being canceled due to COVID. It's evolved through the years and gotten larger, and then this one, I think probably the lead up to APEC got a lot of attention from some of the agencies that said we should participate in this and get the experience to work in conjunction with other agencies.
But there was no active threat incident that we said, oh, we need more training.
No, there was no threat. There wasn't a concern that triggered this exercise.
Great.
Other than just the ferry vessels and terminals, they understand that they are relatively soft targets, and that's why there's a grant for this sort of.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good work.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions from directors? Oh, yes, Barb, sorry.
Thank you. Mike, I just need to say that after your heart stops beating,
Yes.
from hearing everything you've done, thank you so much. And thank you for the grants program for keeping their eyes open. We sit here at these board meetings and we make decisions about pampas grass and that sort of thing. And it's all important work, but sometimes unless you come and tell us, we forget the important underpinning that all of you have that keep us safe and keep our passengers and our customers safe. It takes your breath away. I can't imagine I wanted to say it before I saw the video because, when I see the video, I'll probably be like this, just watching them climb up over the edge of the ferry on the picture is enough for me. But anyway, thank you sincerely. Keep up the good work. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Farmer.
I would also like to echo that. I think the anxiety level in the room has been significantly heightened, but your care for us and our safety makes me think back to 9/11 and that the bridge was apparently one of the targets as well by the terrorists. So thank you for all of that safety as well. So we'll look at the video unless anybody has any questions. Should we ask the audience questions?
We can ask to see. I don't have anyone in the audience to speak, so I'm going to double check with Justine. How about we double check with Justine first before we show the video? Justine, do you have anyone on your public line that might have joined that wants to comment on this item?
We do not have anyone that's joined that would like to comment. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks for checking.
Great. Video time. Yeah.
Hey, Chip, did we take the elevator? This is Route 17 Marine 7. Please proceed south towards my direction. We are going to complete an analysis of your vessel.
The chokehold is to get a suspicious vessel to pass between us so we can all get analysis of what geological material we might be reading.
I'm going to need you to transmit and we're going to work on this. Get upstairs! Get upstairs! Get upstairs! How many suspects did you see? Please, officer, get help! There's 3 of us who's injured. Our guys are dying. Help them, please. I'm jumping on his back. I'm standing right now.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, thank you. Yes, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Not unless there's any questions.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
In that video, I really appreciated seeing all the different agencies that were involved, either on their uniforms, on their vessels, or elsewhere. And it really sort of helped reinforce that this is a wide area training.
Hope I get a good night's sleep.
Good thing it was first thing in the morning. I don't think we need any more caffeine. Very, very, very important, and hopefully never happens. Thank you. There is no action that's required on this informational presentation, but before we move on, again, is there anyone that wants to speak on this end?
No, we have no one speaking on this item.
I think we've been stunned. Yes. Great. Now, thank you. We will move on to item number 5, which is an informational monthly report from board appointees on the Sonoma Marine Rail Transit Board. I'll start off with the report, and I know Barb would like to share the stage as well. And
That's me.
we have done our homework. There have been 2 meetings since our last board meeting. One was on December 20th. We didn't have a B&O, so we didn't have this report.
Correct.
And I can say the highlight from that meeting, and then I'll move on to January 17, and I'm sure there'll be holes in it that Barb will fill. We had a report from our general manager on any contracts above $100,000. Also a report on bike share program, which will start in the summer of 2024 and go for 2 years. We also talked about the property in Petaluma. We had a ribbon cutting in Petaluma for the Petaluma North site, and a weekend ridership was at its highest since 2019. I had a meeting with another, just as an aside, another garbage hauler yesterday in our area, and she unfortunately has some sight issues now because of a cataract surgery that went bad. She's usually very quiet. She started to talk about how grateful she was for SMART. She lives in Patati, works in San Rafael, and can't get there from here. And this allows her to also make dinner for her parents. So it was one thing that made you almost cry. In addition, do you have anything on that particular meeting, Barb?
No.
This was a good meeting just before Christmas, the holidays. Then the next meeting was on the 17th, so it was just last week. In addition to wonderful reports about how ridership across the board is exponentially increasing, Eddie Cummins, our GM, continues to brag positively and rightfully so on how ridership has increased and how, other than Marin Transit, we've recovered better than any other transit agency. And that, we had a pathway report as well. Pathway usage is up 18%, so that means bikes and pedestrians are also using SMART to a greater extent, starting Clipper as well. And we're going to have some strategy workshops about going forward with a strategic plan, starting with a SWOT analysis, January 31st. Ridership workshop will be on the 7th of February. Pathways will be the 28th of February. Extensions will be on March 14th. And exciting will be freight on March 27th. So obviously all are welcome to participate. They're via those 5 workshops are via Zoom. So there's a bright future out there for SMART. And I have a more extensive report, many of them actually. If you're interested, I'd be happy to forward to Elmarat. Barb, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's it, other than because we represent different areas in the corridor. The Citizens Oversight Committee is now taking applications. We have 3 openings. So if you know someone that's interested or someone that would be good, just have them contact us or office. And then make sure you get the information. I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, but SMART has gotten itself in a number of lawsuits over the pathways. An organization that is not from here has sort of gone through the United States and picked off places like ours and has convinced property owners that it was an illegal taking when we put the tracks down and did the pathways. And so we've been working on that for 3 or 4 years at least. And fortunately, that has been successfully resolved, I guess is the way you say it. Initially, this is how big it was. There were 130 plaintiffs. The good news is no SMART funds were used to settle the litigation. It's been long and arduous, but we're clear of that. So that makes it, you don't realize when you put something new in, how many places you touch. I mean, I'm sure the same was true, trying to get the bridge and all the bus corridors. Anyway, we're excited about that. I think that's it. I just have to say, this is naive about me because I'm not a bike rider. Sorry, Bert. You wouldn't want to see me on a bike. Yeah, you wouldn't want to see me on a bike. But I am always impressed at how many people use our pathways. There's a quote here about how many the pathway ridership count. It's up just in a short period of time, 18%. We have hundreds of people using our pathways, and we get a lot of feedback from the public about we're not going fast enough, and we probably aren't. But the first thing we have to do is make sure we get the train there, and then we try to put the train and pathways down at the same time. But it doesn't always work that way, and what it means is that we sometimes get parts of the pathway that aren't complete, and so you have to go on a road. Well, the same thing happens here, over in Sausalito. Anyway, it's an exciting time for SMART. That's all I can say. We hope we don't make it into the newspaper very often unless it's positive.
Yeah.
I thought all the right of ways that you folks used were what we gave, what the bridge gave them.
Not all of them. A lot of them are.
Right.
Other people owned all of the right of ways. What happens is if you own a farm,
Right.
and our railroad goes through your farm, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kim's my attorney, and we put the rail through the farm. To get the pathway, it takes more than just the rail bed. Okay, the pathway doesn't, and it's that land that they think we took illegally.
All right.
Is that correct?
Is that what they're saying?
Yes. But
And
it's
so
over
that,
now.
yeah, that those lawsuits, they try to pick off little gas stations.
Well, they pick off farmers,
And farmers. And
ranchers,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
and also get a lot of input, that's what I call it, about people that have had crossings,
Right.
informal crossings, and now we close it down. So there are lots of little pieces.
But, okay.
Some of those holdings went back to the end of the 1800s.
Yes.
Jim?
Patty, you mentioned Clipper starting or start Clipper or something like that,
Mhm.
but you accept Clipper, what did you mean?
I'm going to have to
Want me to
look
read
back through the report.
Harley's got it.
I've got it here.
Clipper start.
And I'm not a Clipper user, so this is all just what I'm reading here. MTC has renewed the Clipper Start program,
Oh, okay.
okay? And we have done our share, we think, in advertising that, because we're part of the Clipper family.
Got it. It was the program I was thinking it was.
Sorry.
No, it was a quicker
Yeah, it's
start.
got a line. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barb. Any other questions? Yes, Bert.
Yeah, I got a question. As you know, I bicycle pretty much everywhere. During the pandemic, I attended at least one meeting, actually two meetings when I didn't get a ride with Jerry up. But I found a great deal of difficulty connecting into the pathways to catch the smart train, and on dead ends and crossing freeways, not crossing freeways, almost going on freeways. It was really difficult, and Google's no help.
And I'm sure that's true. I mean, we don't deny that. But
Yeah.
we don't control what happens outside our pathways, but we do a pretty robust program where we interface with the cities, we interface the neighborhoods, trying to make sure that the wayfinding works.
Okay,
And we've spent quite a bit of time on wayfinding lately.
good. I
And
like the word lately.
lately, yeah,
I'll give it another try.
Yeah, and that's the hard part is that it's always a lately
Yeah.
program because we're new. I mean, we're babies. We've only been there, what, 7
I'm
or 8
also
years?
excited that so many people are using it.
I know.
Because it means there'll be more trains.
That's true.
And I
And
won't have to wait like an hour and something.
That's right, there's a side of the complaints that is music to our ears.
Yeah, that's a win-win.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
we,
you.
we did have, I believe it was last month, presentation on making more uniform all of the signage for smart and other methods of transit. So you should have that intersect become more clear.
And that would be on the website if you wanted to go on and see more specifics.
I'll do that.
And soon, I just wanted to add, if I may, ribbon cutting will happen for Windsor. So we're moving forward on Windsor. And I know Deb Fudge is going to be front and center on that because she's been there from the beginning. And one final personal note is that I've noticed over time that the biking community in Marin and Sonoma, who can rightfully so be pretty vociferous about what they like and push forward all of the biking opportunities, become, I think, exponentially satisfied with the kind of service they're getting and the attention and the listening on the part of the smart staff.
They're very effective. group
Yeah,
of people.
they are.
Feel them well.
They are that. Wonderful. Well, that concludes any discussion on item number 5. But before we move on, anyone from the public who would like to speak?
We have no speakers in the room. Justine, do you have any speakers for this item or even for public comment towards the end there?
We have no speakers on anything today. Thank you.
Okay.
So as you know, there's no action that's required for this item. So we'll move on to item number 6, which is status report on engineering projects, and welcome Ava back. For us all, the staff report begins on page 29, and go right ahead. Thank you, Ava.
Thank you, Chair Gavarino, members of the committee. My written report is before you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Great, thank you so much. Colleagues, are there any questions for Ava regarding her engineering report? Okay. Thank you, Ava. Obviously, it's satisfied. That's all. There's no action associated with item number 6. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak or address this committee under item number 7, which is public comment?
We have no speakers in the room and we have no speakers online for B&O.
Okay, thank you. We've reached the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? And I'm assuming one of those is also a second.
You
Hearing
got
no
it.
objections, this concludes the meeting of the Building and Operating Committee. Thank you, colleagues. The time is 9:51.
All right, thank you. We will, let's start on the dot for finance. I'll give everyone a quick break.